No. Okay. 1 sec. Gonna make sure things are working. Might hear a bit of an echo. 1 sec. Gonna make sure things are working. Right. Welcome back, Internet. We're gonna continue back on with our Emotible work. We left off with our grid, and I have found a solution. We were playing around with this, not this. We were playing around with our wrap grid, trying to catch up on where we were. Anyway, we're playing around with the wrap grid. The wrap grid's wrong. Turns out there's actually this adaptive grid view. Found this when I was just kind of reading more on this community toolkit. This adaptive grid view, it does exactly what we need. That's the wrong. I had the tab open for this, but apparently we're not going to get that. I guess I'll go here. But anyway, we get this, which is exactly what we want. It spaces things out and automatically sizes them to fill whatever the screen space is, which is perfect. That's precisely what we were looking for. So we should be able to just plug that in, I think. I hope so. Otherwise, this is going to turn into a whole nother thing. So we've got that, and I think that's it. That should be everything. It should just work. Please work. But okay, so it won't work. What we do need to do is we need to specify the item width. How did this work? I should have read more about this before I just was like, we're going to use this. Desired width. So I think it only works in one direction, but that's fine because that's the only direction we care about. I'm going to make it just 200. And then we'll set the item height as well. Equal to, we had that static resource of our tile height. So we can plug this in. Now we'll create a number of items that'll be approximately 200 wide. It may make it, I don't know how it works. It may make them bigger, may make them slightly smaller. But I think we'll try to get them to that size. And if it either falls below that or something, it will resize things so that it can fit. And it will stretch them if it needs to so that there's no extra white space on any of the sides. That's the plan, at least. If it works, well, then huzzah. And if it doesn't, then no. Let's see. And if it does, I'm going to feel really bad because I wasted a lot of time trying to figure this out. But that's what learning is, I guess. Screw up a bunch and oh, jeez. So know how I said this was really helpful because this is what shows up when you get an exception? That's what we're getting here. Unhandled exception must have a derivative of panel as the root element. Oh no. Are they expecting, they're doing something weird here. I think we may need to apply this to our wrap grid. I think that's what's going to have to happen here. I'm going to just check out, they have the sample code here. I don't know what this .bind is. If anybody knows, let me know. But it's got, it looks like a page, but I don't think it is, and this is weird. I've never seen that syntax before. Anyway, carrying on. This is what we care about. In here, there's an adaptive grid view. That doesn't really help us that much. Oh. So there's a selection mode. Oh, huh. That's why. Oh, that's Unity. That's why this isn't working. Because this is our items panel, items list. So this guy can replace this. But if we do that, then we lose this thing. Holy. Huh. This is going to be more complicated than I had anticipated. Like everything I try to do. So we can get rid of this items panel. And this can become controls adaptive grid view. So we need to set the adaptive grid views item template, not the list views. That's not a thing anymore. And then let's see if this has a header. I guess this is what we get for doing it live. I get to screw up a bunch. Nope. I'm gonna take this out then. Cool, that didn't work. So I tried the hotkey for commenting things out. It didn't comment things out. Okay. Guess we'll have to do it manually. There's that. Now let's see what this does. So these should be our elements now. We lose our header, which I'm kind of sad about, but we can get it back if we... I don't really want to do that, but we can get it back. And it's throwing another error. Cannot be assigned. The following type was expected. What? Oh. Okay. Did I miss anything else? I had an extra bracket down there, and it was breaking everything. Let's try this again. It seems to have worked. Yes, no, maybe so. Hey! So it actually does that thing that we wanted to do. And as I resize this, they grow and then it wraps them. So this is perfect. This is precisely what we were trying to do for the majority of the last video. And we did it now. We did lose. We had, whoa. Okay. Do not shake the windows. Shaking the windows minimizes everything. Okay. So we lost our header. And I kind of want that back. So how are we going to get that back? And that's a little bit weird. So the margins are off. They're wider over on the right side than they are on the left. That's also a little bit weird. I think it might be the scroll bar. And that doesn't really make any sense. And then the margins between things are also wrong. So there's more work to do. But it, for the most part, works. I guess that's a win. What's going on here? Margins. Let's make everything spaced out equally. So we'll give it 6, 6. And we can reduce this to, 2, 6. Now that should make everything spread out the same way. And then this is a really bad idea. Just to get the header back, I'll fix this later, I say now, but anyway, we'll have a list view just like we had previously. And I can uncomment this now and get everything back. We want this to be our list view. So we've got our list view, and now let's add some content to that. I've got some content. Look at that. Content. List view.content. No, I think I can just drop it in, but I was gonna nest it if I needed to. So there's that. We've got our grid view inside of a list view inside of a grid. That's That's certainly one way to accomplish that, I think. So we should get our header back if this works. I hope it works. And if it does, we can delete that converter. That didn't work. It does not work. Yay for exceptions. Layout could not complete. Okay, so whoops. What did we do wrong? Probably a whole bunch of things. Alright, header's going away for now. I'll bring it back, I swear. But for now, I think the next step is going to be... Oh. The next step is going to be getting our words that I can't say that I need to say that are yes. So the next step is going to be the hamburger button. Hamburger menu. That's the words that I meant to say that I can't say. That's what we're trying to do. So the hamburger button looks like this guy. And so here's their example. They're doing a bunch of fun stuff, and it looks, some of the sample stuff looks like that. I have never seen this syntax. I'm kind of curious what that is. Okay, you can stop anytime. So we need to create this and just nest things in it, which should be simple enough. I'm actually just, we can recreate that when we need to, because we're going to need to modify it, and if I just keep it around, it's just technical debt that I don't need. So we want our controls hamburger menu, yes. And then we can just, I think we can just drop this in here. And then I'm going to do something, display mode, this is important. So I should mention there's actually another way to get a hamburger menu into your app. And that can be done by doing, what's it called? It's called a split view. Yeah. So if you use a split view, that will get you something similar to the hamburger menu. The only issue is then you have to, it gives you more freedom, but it's not built at all for you. The split view is just a control that can kind of do an overlay over part of the screen. So if you want to do something that kicks, it will have this display mode, all of that. The settings will be the same, but if you need a bunch of customization, don't use this. Use the split view, and the split view is part of the default package. It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's what this hamburger menu is built off of. We're just using this because it's going to be easier, and we don't need anything fancy. We just need something that works. So, does it work? I hope it works. The answer to the question is maybe. So we get this, it's actually overlaid over our app, which I don't particularly like. We've got the button there, but there's nothing else. So I'm actually going to close that, stop that, and change this overlay. Is that how they want to do it? Yeah, they want this guy. I'm just gonna do the easy way and copy and paste. And then we can tweak later. So this will expand from 48 pixels to 240. That's going to be the measure the width of both the closed and open. And then I'm gonna run it again. Make sure it's a little bit hard to see because the debugging information is actually covering up the button. And I don't have any elements in there anyway, so you can't really see what's going on. But there is a button there, and I don't have it colored either, which is also super, super nice. If I change this to inline, is there an animation? No. No, there is not. Why would I think there's an animation? That would be silly. Uh-huh. So what we're going to need is we're going to need an item template, an options template, an item click, an option item click, and then is pane open. And I think we have to do all of that ourselves, which is kind of a pain, but it shouldn't be too hard. We just need a list, which I can make a list. There's one thing I can do, it is make lists. It's practically my job. So we've got a display mode, and we want that to be inline, which I presume is going to actually shift. No, I was wrong. I assumed that inline was going to shift the elements over. I was wrong. That's happening too much. That needs to happen less. But anyway, I want this to not overlay all of our elements because that's weird. And then I think we might even be able to turn this into the header. We'll have to explore it a little bit. So we have a button, and that's about it right now. This has gone well. Pane background. This will probably help things a ton. We want that to be the application secondary foreground, none of those. Background. And there is a lot of backgrounds to choose from. Which one do we want? I don't know. Let's just pick one. Okay, now that we've got that, let's move on. That worked well. Just point and click. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, so starting again. This is fun. Hey, it works. That is super hard to see, but it's slightly lighter or darker than the other background, and it actually, I thought initially it had pushed the elements over, but now I'm realizing, oh, it did push them over. Well, that's cool. So it pushes them over only when it's expanded. Otherwise, it actually overlays this menu over the top of them. I don't know if I like that. I think we can fix that. That's a pretty easy fix, I think. I don't know how hard it is with this framework, but I think it's easy enough with what we're doing. But we get this, and our grid automatically fixes everything. It should even be resizing things if it needs to. It doesn't look like it needs to. I'm gonna make it so it has to resize, and you can see it actually changes the size of the elements when we do this. Kind of want it to animate this. Now I'm starting to think it might be, if you can't animate that menu, I know you can with the split view. That's what I'm thinking. And I kind of want it to be animated. So if we can't, then we may jump back to the split view, which is going to require some custom code, which would be super fun. Oh, I didn't mean to click that. That's going to take us to like the actual sample code. Well, not the actual sample code. That's going to take us to the real code that it's actually using. Not really interested in digging into that right now. Maybe some other time, but for now, let's get on to this. So, what am I missing? We have their templates here. These are what they're actually applying. If you saw back in this demo, this is for the wrong thing, which explains why it doesn't make any sense. Okay, going back here, can look at the samples. This is the template that they're showing. And this is why we get things that we get. So this template is what is rendering these guys. And it looks like they added a header there. Uh-huh. Let's see. There's got to be a way that we can make this less awful. I just don't like the way. I'm not sure without like modifying this if I can get it to do what I want it to do. And that's kind of concerning me because I want it to do that. So I wanted to do a slide. When you open it, I want it to slide open. And I also, on mobile devices, I want you to be able to swipe from the left side of your phone or whatever and have it just open this menu for you. I don't want you to have to click the hamburger button. I want you to be able to just swipe and it opens. And I mean, I'm going to have to probably hand code that anyway with the other one. But why jump through all these hoops if I can just write my own? So let's do that. We've got plenty of time. Let's write our own menu system. That's probably a terrible idea. All right. So we've got that. First things first, let's separate our grid. No, let's not do that. Let's take our split view and there are two sections here. Pane background and content. Yes. So the content is this guy. Whoa. So much for formatting. Let's see if that looks slightly nicer. No. Help, I've broken it. Okay. There. Okay. That looks like sane formatting. Good. So we have a split view and there's content. The other half, the left half, where the normal hamburger button would be, is going to be the pane. And this, for now, we're just going to create a grid with a background equal to black. Now that's just so we see it. Compact pane length. These are the same, like I said, they're the same things. So if we saw these last time and they are the same thing. So is pane open? No. Open pane length. Let's just copy their values. Placement equals left. What did they call it? It's weird that I can just look at this thing. And then I'm probably going to realize that it would have worked with this other thing and we'll jump back, but that's the way I do things. It's probably not the best. Display mode. Okay. Display mode equals inline compact. Sure, inline. There's an animation thing. I swear there is. And I don't want to write it myself. I mean, it isn't actually that hard to write the expanding and the closing. But I'd prefer not to if I don't have to. You guys probably can't. No, not really. So, I'll make that bigger. So there's a bunch of properties fields here. If you use blend, this will show up too. But I'm looking here for something that is going to let me animate this. That's all wrong. Whoa, bunch of stuff. So this exposes pretty much everything, which is why all of this is here. What is this? Flyout base, attached flyout? No, we don't want. Well, we kind of do, but we don't want that. A light dismiss overlay mode? There is a lot more stuff here than I know. Nope. So some of these things, like the transform that I just clicked, that's standard on every component. That's just what every component has. I can actually go into this and show you guys. You won't be able to see this, but quick scroll up. Okay, so here we get our pivot or our translation. We can move that. We can rotate it. We can scale it. We can skew it and kind of move the top or bottom half without the other side. So it kind of gets that weird, what's that called? Not a rhombus. Something. It gets a something. This changes the center point, so when you're doing all of this stuff, it changes how that's working. If you're rotating and you want to rotate around like the bottom left corner, that's how you control this. And then if you want to mirror things, you can do that too. And you guys can see the projection too. And so this allows us to do 3D projections on our components. So if you've seen like the classic tile flip, that's what this projection is going to do. And you can change the 3D center of rotation, the global offset, and things like that. So if you want 3D controls, this is where you go. If you want 2D stuff, that's where you go. It's handy for animating stuff. I don't really need that now, but I figured we'd cover it. It occurs to me that we may want to just test this and see if it actually works. To do that, I'm going to need something. We need a button. So I'm just going to write this really quick, not click. We want a toggle hamburger. Sure, we'll do that. And this is going to need a name now. Just as a reminder, I'm doing this quick. Don't actually write code like this. I'm just seeing if this works so we can actually have something we can run this against. So, hamburger menu. Then if I go to this, it should generate something. We'll be in our main page. And we can do that by, what did we want to do? We wanted our, okay, I totally lost myself. That's silly. We want our hamburger menu, that's what I was looking for, to open. So is pane open equals the opposite of whatever it was. So if we click it once, it opens. If we click it again, it closes, and so forth and so on. It just keeps repeating. So we can open it and close it as much as we want. And I imagine this is going to do the same thing. So we may be going back to that hamburger menu control. I can't find the animation thing. So we may need to, oh, it's not even there. Weird. Why doesn't it have a width or anything? That's kind of interesting. Kind of wrong, but kind of interesting. Width equals, let's set the min width equal to 48. I think that should fix that. And if it doesn't, it'll be even more lost. This is getting all kinds of weird. I've done this before. I've made a split view with a custom hamburger menu, and it worked. And now it isn't. Now I'm feeling silly. Hmm. Well, I think for the sake of time, I think we're gonna have to move on from that. I don't know what's going on there. That's weird. I think I'll probably dig into that some other time. Try to figure out what's actually going on there. Maybe do this the correct way. But I don't want to just get everything hung up and just spend a bunch of time on that when we can go back to this guy. So I'm gonna drop our menu back into our hamburger menu, like so. And then we just need to update this. So display mode equals inline, pane width. No, we want the pane open length equal to 240 and the pane compact length equal to 48. And this should now set our hamburger menu to be either open or compact based on whatever. We've already kind of touched this, but just kind of going over it again because we're back to the old place. This is wrong because we're not using this anymore. So that should fix those compile errors. And then let's see what we get. Hopefully something else. I should really update Visual Studio. That flag has been there bugging me for like a month now. Okay, so we're back to this. It looks like it failed again, but we have our little hamburger menu there, and it pops open. And our controls resize, so we're good again. It's kind of doing the weird overlay thing that I don't understand, but we'll deal with that when I know more about what I'm talking about. Right, main page. We've got our controls, those are loading. Got this, that's good. What else do we need? Wrap grid width converter. This doesn't need to be here. We're not using that anymore. And I can get rid of these properties. We're not really using those either. I'm actually going to remove this guy. And it occurs to me that I may have forgotten my push. Oops. Carrying on. The hamburger menu is displayed inline like so. There's that. Next things we need, these, the buttons. And how we do that is, so it looks like there's two things that are being displayed. There is a about, and then these images are separate. So I assume the options are at the bottom and everything else is at the top. So what we're going to do, what I've been thinking of is, let's stick your recent, like your 10 most recent emoticons up here where those images are, and we'll stick the options at the bottom. And so that way, on phones or whatever, if you want to add a new one, it's pretty easy because you just slide and it should be all within one finger's reach. And then if you want to tap anything, then you do the standard thing. I think that makes sense. For now, let's just get the options working. So we're going to need this. And we're going to need an option item click as well. But I'm going to ignore that because, well, because I can. Right. So here is our template. That should be the about. We're going to grab this. And I'm just going to reuse their template because I assume it works. We need to remove our converters because I deleted them. Data type is equal to the local menu item. So this is something I didn't do in the previous one, and all the previous stuff, is you can actually set a data type of what you're binding to. So this template has a data type set. So even though it doesn't have like a data context or anything, it still knows or should know the things. Also, I found out earlier, like 2 hours ago, what this xbind thing is. This is a new Windows 10. I think it may have come in Windows 8, but I never used it. So it replaces binding. It's less powerful, but it's faster. So if you just need like simple bindings, you can do that. If you need more complex stuff that this may not support, then you use the classic binding. But for simple stuff, this is apparently the recommended way to do it, and it's not the way I've been doing it, so we'll have to fix that. But for now, I'm going to create a menu item view model. And to do that, just go here, click that. Ooh, menu item. There we go. And make it a iNotify property changed. And that's not it. Okay. My hotkeys are still broken. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's the update. Anyway. OnNotify property changed. ReSharper generates a bunch of this stuff. We went through this in the last video. If you want to see what this stuff means, watch that or go look it up. I'm not going to go through it again because it takes time. So we're going to add a, what do we want? So this is bound to a symbol icon and a text block. Oh geez. So the symbol icon, there's a special symbols font in Windows that they use for all of the standard stuff. So if you need a specific like resource or an icon or something, like the classic like pens and markers and things, those have all been converted into a font and they resize and all of that fun stuff. And I assume that's what this is. I've always not done this. I've just set the font in a text block and called it good. But I assume that's where this is going, is it's just automatically looking up that icon. We'll have to confirm that. I could be very wrong. But I don't think... Oh, it's actually... You actually can just give it the symbol. Okay, that's much easier. In the past, you had to actually like give it the Unicode encoding of the character, which was fun. You learned about all that other stuff. But apparently that's not needed, so I'm going to stop rambling about it. Right. What did we need? We needed the icon and the name. The icon is going to be a symbol. Well, we can actually... This will do everything we need. And we can just copy those. And I'm starting to think, do we need a property changed event? I think we do. And the reason I think we do is because we may be doing some fancy stuff with this. So I think I'm going to keep it. I don't think I'm going to implement it yet. Yeah, we're going to get rid of this actually. Going forward and then 3 steps backwards and then 2 steps forwards and then 6 steps to the right, and it's like Willy Wonka's elevator. Right. Symbol, icon, string, name. That's good. To finish this now, we need to bind to our view models menu item view model. And so this should be resolved and these should now be found. So I am going to build it one more time. This isn't going to change anything. I'm just doing this so that all the symbols are found so that we get a binary. I don't need to actually run it. I could have just built it, I guess. That would have been smart, but well, we did this. Oh, I guess it's a good thing I did this. So, what's the error this time? Can't find a resource with a name key. Okay, so we're looking for the wrong resource. I can fix that. I assume what's happening is this is not that. And so we want this to be our option template. And that's actually an all right name. I think that works for us. All right, that's all we need. We're still not going to get anything. And now this is going to not work, but I think that's fine. We can do that. And why did I go back here? I didn't need to do this. Okay, going here, what we want is we want our X name of this guy to be our hamburger. And we're going to do one of those bad things again. We are going to open up our code behind. In the loaded, we're going to do the hamburger.options items source. Yeah, that's what we want to set. Equals a new list of, what did we call it? We called it the menu item view model. Cool. Shouldn't be forgetting these names. They're not that hard. And why did you go all the way over there? Okay, that's why. And so this is a shortcut in C#. This is actually going to create this list and then call add a bunch on it and then return that here. So we could write this by doing new list and then do .add for each of the new items, or we can write this and just do a construction of a bunch of these elements. So we're going to do our icon equals symbol dot add with the name equal to new emoticon. And we can just copy this once. I think we only need it one more time. And the second one is going to be help. Yeah, we'll call it help. Help and about. That's super useful. So this should set the options item source in our main page. This will set this guy's hamburger menus item source. It will bind this options thing to that. And so we'll display two items in our options that will show both of these things. So we should see two items wherever the options shows up. I'm assuming those are the bottom ones. Could be very wrong, but why read the documentation when you can just make it up and figure it out now? Okay, open. Oh, okay. It does work. You just can't tell. Yeah. Okay. So there is things. Oh, those are hard to read. I'm going to make this black background because I can't see that. Okay. That should help a ton. Oh geez. Oh geez. All right. Now that the hair is out of the way, we've got this guy. Now we should be able to see things. We should open this. That black isn't going to work either because it hides the button. But we do get down in the bottom, we get our two options. And you can select them for some reason. That's cool. But that's what we wanted. We wanted this thing. So we're good. Pretty sure those also exist. Okay, for some reason they don't exist unless they're expanded. Why isn't the compact pane? Why isn't this length the default length when it's closed? Oh. That's why. So there's a compact inline and there's an inline. I'm pretty sure the inline goes fully off the screen. And if you add compact on there, it uses that compact pane length, which would make perfect sense, wouldn't it? It's practically in the name. Frankly, it is in the name. But, all right. Yes. Okay, we do get this, and it does work. We get this plus this question mark. I don't think there's a way to test the touch. But we can expand it. We get that. Cool. So now we have a hamburger button, hamburger menu with items that we can click that don't do anything. But they're there, we can select them. It's all fancy like. Can't see the hamburger bun menu. I can close that. And now I'm rambling, but whatever. What we need next is we need to make the hamburger button stand out. Oh, it's got a template. That's fun. Okay, I'm gonna copy this quick. Pull this down. Edit additional templates. Let's edit the hamburger menu template. Edit a copy. It'll be attached to this document. We'll call it the hamburger menu template. I'm so good at names. Wait. I thought I was going to get more than that. What? Hold on. Go back. This doesn't make any sense. Why did you do this? So I created a copy of the current template, which is empty. Which doesn't make much sense. I think we can fix it by just setting the foreground now that I think about it. But why didn't it work? Okay, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know what that was. Let's do foreground equals white. I think so. This should set the foreground, which should apply to the hamburger button. That's my thinking here, is that this white foreground is going to apply to the foreground of all the elements, which happens to be the hamburger button's menu. Yep, and it does work. So we get this. Those numbers are kind of... Can I turn them off? No. Okay. Anyway, we've got that, and it expands, which is good. So we can expand this. Got our buttons. They don't do anything yet, but we can fix that. But I don't think we'll fix that now. I'm right now. What we're focusing on is let's get the UI done. We've kind of got basic app features done. We've got a database behind this. We've got this being data bound. Everything is kind of working. But what I'm working on now is let's get the app looking the way we want it. And then we can take these and implement them and actually connect things together. That'll be the final step. Then once that's done, then the app gets released, and then we all go celebrate and do whatever it is we're supposed to do. For me, it's just make videos. Oh, that's kind of sad. But anyway. So, we have this. Next step is going to be when we copy something. That kind of looks gross. But when we copy something, I want something to say some affirmative confirmation, something that says you copied this, yay, good for you. It's on your clipboard now, go do what you need. Because right now you just click the button and you're like, did it work? I don't, did it work? Yeah, you have no idea. So let's fix that. And we're gonna fix that with a custom control, I think. And so this control is just gonna be like a pop-up screen. It's gonna be sort of a pop-over animation. That's the plan at least. And then it's gonna need the text that you copied, and that's about it. So, new item, create a new user control. We're gonna call it the text copied confirmation control. Sure, why not? It's as good a name as any. And then we can drop down here. And I think we're actually going to be able to use a bunch of the animations that the community toolkit provides us, so we aren't going to need to do too much with storyboarding. We probably still will, but I don't think it'll be super required. What I'm going to do now is add a border, and a border is, well, it's just a border. But it's a little bit more than that. The default is just sort of a rectangle that you can give a border around. It's just a rectangle with a stroke around the outside and then some fill on the inside. But what you can do with this is you can give it rounded corners, which is what we want. And then more importantly, you can stick stuff inside of it, which you can't do with like an ellipse or any of the other default controls. You can't put stuff into them. So we're going to take the background and bind that to a theme resource that is going to be our system accent brush, foreground brush, background blue. So that's our background color. And then let's make this outer part. So some controls are called a stroke and some are called a border. Not entirely sure why they mixed that up, but they did. So we've got black around the outside, and I'm going to make that relatively thick. I'm just thinking 3? Sure. 3 is a good number. I like 3, I think. So we've got a rectangle. But that's not, we don't really want a rectangle. We want a corner radius equal to 600. That's good enough. So this is going to make it round. It's not totally circular because we've got these design heights and design widths. And these are internal things. This isn't used in your app, I don't think. I've never seen it happen where it's used in your app. I won't say for sure it isn't because I don't know. But this is used when in the designer to handle the size of things. So you can see it's 400 wide, 400-ish, and 300 tall. So we can just make this the same, and suddenly we get an actual circle. I can get it in there. So there's our copied text circle. Next, we want a text block. We want a few things. We're going to want this to have a grid in it. So you can't, a border can only hold one other control. So we can't just stack things in there and lay them out. We need something inside of it to handle that layout. And that thing that is going to handle that is going to be our grid. So our grid is going to have, I'm thinking, text across the middle, the text you copied across the middle, so the emoticon. And then we're going to have like an icon showing like a clipboard or something. And then at the bottom it can be like either text copied or nothing. Or we can just do the emoticon. That's cool. We'll do that. Text equals. Do I have a shrug? No, I do not. This will work. Okay. And we'll make it white. So this should stand out a little bit if it draws at all, which it doesn't appear to be, which is kind of weird. Oh, it is. It's drawing up here. That's why I wasn't seeing it, because we haven't aligned this at all. And so we're in a grid, and a grid is a rectangular place. But there's a circle here, so that doesn't really work for us. So we're drawing our guy way off where he doesn't belong. So to fix that, we'll center him both vertically and horizontally, and then we get a really teeny smiley face. And now I'm curious, did they add a way to do... So the hard part is there's no good way to dynamically size something. That's not really a thing we can do. So we have to kind of guess at what's going to be the right size for this thing to fit in here. And we don't want things to like go outside of it, because if it leaves this border, it is either going to stretch our grid, which is going to stretch our border, or it's just going to get clipped and not draw, which neither of those are fantastic solutions. Actually, let's handle that case. So when something is too big and is going to get clipped, because you're going to be able to add your own emoticons, and I don't want a dynamic font size for this, because that's too much work and it's going to be too hard on weaker devices. Let's make this huge. Let's make this, hello world, I'm a thing. And we'll set the text size, font size, equal to 72. Okay. And next, we need to wrap this a bunch. Can I not do new lines in here? That's too bad. Yeah, that doesn't look like that works. That's kind of annoying. How do we get it to be tall and blocky? I know how we can do this. Okay, forget this for now. I'm going to go back to that. It's going to be all smiley and happy, but we're going to comment this out. And I'm just going to stick another border in here. And this guy is going to fill. No, he doesn't even need to. We don't need this. I can just make the grid have a background of, what's a color that'll be obvious? Green. Okay, so you've got a green box. And now what we can do with this is we can define a clipping thing. Let's make a clipping circle. So anything in this control that goes outside of it is going to get clipped. So I think you do this by creating a, not that, mask. Can you do this? This seemed like such a good idea, but now I'm realizing it may not be there. Clip. Used to define the outline of contents. One sec. I'm gonna just browse for a second. So I'm pretty sure that clip isn't what we want. But it doesn't look like any of this is either, so let's see where this goes. Rectangle geometry. Well, that got rid of everything. So we need to define a rectangle, 0, 0. Okay, so we can define that. And so this is going to only draw between 0 and 300. But that's only a rectangle. I think it's time for a trip to the internet. Clip item in circle. Clipping geometry must be a rectangle geometry. You can't specify non-rectangular geometry as this is permitted. Some XAML frameworks like Silverlight. So, I think we may be out of luck. We may just have to let it go. In other words, the content that is shown is the area of the rectangle that is drawn with fill. The geometry we used is data for a path rather than for clipping. The clipped area isn't hit testable, okay? But we can't use that. Pretty sure this is going to say the same thing. Yeah, so it's the same guy saying the same thing. So we'll we can take this clip and we walked through down here. We walked through the transforms stuff. And I can still work with that. I can still apply some of these. But I don't know how you make a rectangle into a circle with scaling. I don't think that's a thing that we can do. Okay. Well, I guess that's just one of the limitations. Cool thing though, if you are working in like Silverlight or WPF, I believe, it should just work. But not with Universal Windows Platform. That's, I guess, off limits. I'm gonna shrink this down to something less or more reasonable, not less reasonable. That would be silly. Let's make it 48. And that looks good. That'll be something we'll have to play around with later. Once we actually get emoticons in here, we'll have to play around with this font size and make it so it fits things and looks good. And also there's not like here, there is a ton of negative space here that probably should be used for something that we're not using for something. So we're gonna have to work around that and figure out some way to do it. But for now, we don't have that. So we actually might be able to remove that by measuring. So I mentioned it was hard to stick a text block into this circle that fit it, but we can go the other way around and we can shrink this bubble to fit around this emoticon. So we can measure the sides of this text, and based on that, we can actually size the thing outside of it. And that may be a better way of going about this and actually making it the proper size. I think that makes sense. We'll have to play around with that. I don't know how it's going to work. But for now, we have a circle with a smiley face. So, next thing we want to do is I'm going to actually copy from this main page. I don't know if this is valid either, but I'm going to copy this data type. Pretty sure this is a giant no-no. Don't do this. But I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, it doesn't like that much at all. It's asking to import it. I'm going to see what happens. Oh, okay, it knows what that is. Doesn't like this though. Can only be applied to a data template. Thought so. Okay, so that can go away. We're not going to use that at all. But we are going to bind to things. And we're probably going to use that new binding thing that we learned about. So this is going to be xbind to, not that. What did we want to bind it to? Our view model has a text. I want to say content. Okay, so we've got the content. That's going to go lost myself. That's going to go here. And so when we create this, we'll bind it to whatever created this, and it will just assume the content and bind it here. And then if we wanted to handle that resizing of the circle, we could handle that when this is changed. So we can attach like a listener or something to that that will kick off. So now that we've got that, what else do we need? Animations, obviously, but that can come later. For now, I think I'm gonna actually set the width to, well, I'm gonna do this by setting the min width equal to 200. Ooh, the min height equal to 200 as well. And so this will set both the height and the width so they can't get smaller than 200. So when we actually start drawing this, that's what's going to happen there. I think that's all I needed to do. And then, yeah, we're going to pretend like that's good. So the next thing we need is we need to hook into this command. So this copy text command is going to take our current text and set the clipboard's contents. I think we wrote this on the second episode of this app. And so what we need to do here is we need to also have this fire off an event that can be viewed by other things. Specifically, we need something that's going to actually create this when this gets fired. And the easiest solution, obviously, is just to stick something in here that binds to like the main page and then instantiates something. But I'm trying to think if there's a nicer way to do this, because that's kind of gross. And ideally, like if we need to bind something else to this later, then that gets hard. And there's a lot of other things that start happening. So how can we do this? What if I make let's do a static event listener. So we'll make something public event handler, and this should be a static event handler that is going to be something text copied. Sure. So there's now a public static event, so anybody can subscribe to this because it's static, it's global, which is kind of gross, but anybody can subscribe to it and anybody can listen to this event, and there's only one of them. So now we can do the text copied. If it's not null, we want to invoke it with this as the argument. So you'll get a reference to the copy text command that it called it, and we also are going to want to pass the parameter. So we're going to pass event args, and we're going to need our own custom thing. This is going to return a string. So we have an event handler that accepts a string. So we need a new event args that also returns a string. No, that's wrong. This invoke now returns a string as its second argument. That's how that works. So if that didn't make any sense, let me walk through that quickly. So this is static. We can subscribe to it from anywhere. Our app can subscribe to it. Our main page is probably what's going to be subscribing to it. And then when it gets updated, when this gets invoked by this, we're going to create our new text copied confirmation control. And what we're passing to it is we're passing in the text copied, not the text copied, we're passing in a reference to the object that called it, which is this, plus we're passing in the content, which is going to be our text that we wanted to copy. So that's what's going to be sent to this. And from that, I think that's all we'll need. We will have to probably recreate a view model for it, but I think that's fine. So let's see if it works. I hope it does. If it doesn't, then what? So we have our hamburger menu. There's that. This is just going to keep expanding for now. We'll go back and we'll fix this later. I'm saying that a lot. Mote list. That's wrong. We want the copy text command. And when that is called, when text is copied, we want to take the object and the argument, we'll call it the text, and do this. So this is a lambda expression. If you've used Java, it's almost identical. We're passing in the two objects that we got from this. So those object and text are going to match up with this and content. So those are going to be what we receive here. And then this is just an inline function that we're going to be calling here. And all we're doing with this plus is we're just subscribing to this event. Then, actually, do I want to do a lambda? Yeah, that's probably fine. I said that so much. It's probably not fine, but we'll go with it for now. Main page. Next, I'm going to need a reference to this grid. So we need to add this pop-up somewhere. We can't just add it to our page, because if we do that, it's going to break, because our page can only support one thing. It's just like the border, it supports one. So we need this grid in here, but we don't have a reference to this grid. So I'm going to call it a application frame. I think that's a good name. It feels better than most of them. So what we can do with this is we can do .children.add. Yes, and we can add a UI element, which we don't have, but we're going to get one because we have this text copied confirmation control, which we can just build like so. Text copied equals new. Yeah, I think that's all I need. I'm gonna remove this, make it a var. So this will automatic variable here automatically gets assigned to the type of whatever is returned on the right side. So whatever you're assigning to it, it just automatically does it. It's not a dynamic thing. So if you've used JavaScript, this isn't that. It will type check and it will be that type. It's more closer to like the auto keyword in C++ than it would be to like dynamic stuff. C# has dynamic classes actually. Dynamic is a valid type. You can make dynamic objects and you can just add stuff to them. It's actually pretty fun. Actually, I should do a video on that. It's actually really interesting what you can do with them. I don't really know what you can do with them, but you can do stuff with them. Anyway, text copied. We need to add this to our grid. And this should add it to the end, to the back of it, which I think is fine. It's probably fine. It's probably not fine. Text copied is going to need a data context. So we need to actually create a view model now. And that's going to be our emote view model. And we need to set the content equal to the text. And I'm actually just going to completely ignore onClick. So it's got a data context that's going to be equal to the text we clicked. It should pop up. And then, well, let's test this and see if it works. There's going to be an obvious flaw in this plan, which is going to be that that's never going to disappear. But we can work around that. Right. Come on, there we go. So we've got this. If we click Hello World 5, whoa. We set our data context to the wrong thing, and we get this weird circle that's all funky and takes up the entire screen. But it kind of works. It doesn't disappear. But we've got our control, and it gets triggered. So we're subscribing to our event correctly. It's all working. It's just the wrong size and looks gross, and also doesn't work. That's a surprise. So what happened? This data context. Did I bind to the wrong thing? Binding to the content? No, I think that's right. Huh. Well, actually, we can make this better. So how I'm going to do it is I'm going to create a dependency property. And we already did this for our emote tile control, but we need a string, and this is going to be our text. And so this will store our text. Going to change this to a name of text. Okay, so this is just going to be binding our text. What we can do here then is take this and how do I want to do this? XPath equals this? No. Self? No. Okay, we may need to go back to this because I'm not familiar enough with that to know what I'm doing yet. Oh, right, path is what we were... I made that mistake before. It's such a... Anyway, moving on. I'm feeling silly. So, how did I do this? We've done something similar to this. We've bound to our self in one of these, and that's what I want here. So I want to bind to our self. Which maybe I didn't do. I think that's back from here. Nope. Nope, I'm wrong. Okay. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Clearly, I am wrong. But we do actually need to bind to that. How did I do this in here? Ah, element name. Emote tile. Got it. That makes sense. So we can do that here. X name, we're going to call this our confirmation control. And then we have the element name set here. That's not how you do that, is it? Yeah, that's how you do that. Equals the content. But it's not the content, it's the text. That also didn't make much sense, but there. We have our thing. Default string is the default, that's why it's empty. So that that final thing here, this is setting the default of our dependency property. and the default is going to be the default string value. This is a keyword in C# that's going to take whatever the default value for that object is. If it's an object, it's going to be null. If it's like an int, for example, it'll be 0. But it's a more clear way of saying what you intend it to be. You intend it to be whatever the default value is, and let the compiler figure it out for you. So that's where that is. Here we have all of this fun stuff. Text, that's all bound. I think we're good. The only thing we need to change now is this. This is not what we need anymore. We don't need that view model because we can just set the text equal to text. And now it should work. Except the oh, I see. I had closed that bracket and then the compiler had freaked out. So now we take this, create a control, set its text, and then add it to the scene. So hopefully this one actually has the correct name now. It actually displays the correct text. It'll still be skewed, it'll still be big, but that'll be next on the board. World 0, hello 1, hello 0, it works, cool. So 2 things we need to do now is we need to make it not be like misshapen, and we need to make it be awesome. I could have come up with a better word for that, but we need to make it be itself. We need to make it animate, which I guess awesome works for that. But we need to give it life. We need to not make it just blah. So to do that, well, first we're gonna make it a circle. And by make it a circle, I mean we're gonna make it a circle. Set the width to 300 and the height to 300. We'll probably come back here and bind these like I was talking about, but we're not going to do that yet because that's going to be a whole bunch of fun. We're going to need to look at like the screen size, make sure it doesn't get bigger than the screen size. We're going to need to look at what we're binding to. So we're going to need to take that text, this text box, and we're going to need to measure it and then figure out how big we can make it and see if we need like multiples of something or if we just want to make it a fixed size until it gets too big and then just clamp it. Those are all things we'll need to figure out. Things that we're not going to figure out right now. So now it should be a circle in probably the top left of the screen. And if that's true, then we need to fix one more thing, and that's going to be to center it. So if I click, oh, it is centered. Cool. So we get this pop-up here. Looks good. Yeah. And it resizes and looks funny. So awesome. It does exactly what we need for now, and that's good enough. A lot of this stuff will probably be touching up in the second version, but for now, let's build the app, get it looking good, and then we can slowly start improving everything and making it better and better and better, and keep releasing additional versions instead of just trying to develop like the best app ever. Let's make it good, and then we'll make it great. So there's this. Now we need animations. I think we're going to want blend for this. So I'm going to open up Expression Blend. It's a design tool. Kind of already covered it, but it does the same thing as Visual Studio. It looks almost identical, just a little bit darker. And yeah, it gives you pretty much everything you would normally have. The big difference is going to be all of this stuff, and you get a way bigger properties menu, and you get an objects and timeline thing. And so to work with this, we want our control, this guy. and we want to animate him. And so now over on this left, we get storyboard options. And storyboards are animation sequences. They're a set of keyframed animations that you run through, and they animate your elements. So what you can do is we can take this, create a new one. And I think we only need one, because this is just going to pop up and then it's going to disappear. There's not going to be any interaction. There doesn't need to be any pause. So we can make that whole thing, the pop up and then the disappear, that whole thing can be one animation. And so we're going to do text copied lifespan storyboard. And so this creates a resource. Yeah, it's going to look like nothing for now. But what we can do is, you see we get a bunch of keyframes here. Doesn't do anything if I move this right now, but we can add keyframes for each of the elements in here. One of the caveats of this is you need your elements to be named. If they don't have a name, this doesn't work. You can also do this animation through code. It's less fun and harder and not good, but you can do it. I don't recommend it. But if you need to write something in code, or you need some animation to be procedurally generated, there's a code option as well, and it works. This is going to generate that code, but I recommend go this route. It's going to be easier. So what we will need to do is we need to take this confirmation control, and we're going to be playing around with our transform. We'll be playing around with it a lot. That's the layout. Transform. Yeah, you can see that. So we got our confirmation control. We added a keyframe here. I'm gonna make this, let's do half a second, and then it will sit around for a second and then fade out after 1 second. So how this is gonna work is, let's make it, I think positive is down, which is kind of interesting. Usually you think of positive as being up. It's not in this case, it is down. So it's going to go start down, and then it's going to come up, and then after a second it goes back down, which looks kind of weird, but that's because we haven't done the interesting bit yet. We're also going to fade this out. Ooh, we don't want to get to this yet. We're going to fade this out, which we can do from this opacity. So I'm going to set that to 0. And it's already set there, so I can set this to 0 as well. And now it should fade in, and then fade out, which fairly simplistic, but you're kind of starting to see the idea, I hope. If you're not, well, it's right there. What else? Is there anything else that I was, because I've had this idea in my head, especially for this app. Somebody asked me to make it like a year ago, and then I got Windows Phone kind of started going down, and then I kind of got annoyed, so I stopped. And now we're back. So I'm kind of picking this up where I had a bunch of ideas for this, and so I'm working some of those ideas back into everything. And I had kind of developed some concepts of what this would look like. So it kind of fades in. What we can do now, do I want it to do that? Yeah, we will set this opacity. Actually, I'm kind of changing my mind. So what we can do is we can make this, no, do I want to? So they added a blur into the new framework. So we can create a blur when this is above the screen, and we can have this control take up the entire screen, and then we can blur the background out, which I think would look cool. I think that would be interesting. But I don't know if that's intuitive. I guess the advantage of that is it totally blocks the screen off. Yeah, let's do that. So let's scrap this. We can just delete these, save it, and let's see if we can actually just do that here. How do I do it? That would be handy. So there's a blur that we can just apply. So don't know. First, before we get too far into this, we need to be targeting the anniversary SDK version 14393. 14393. 14393. 14393. And we are targeting version 14393. So we're good. So we are targeting the correct version, which means things should work. Well, they may work. So this is not what we want. Like, they have a animation that's already going to handle blurring something, but I think that just blurs an element. I want to blur everything behind it. So I think we can do that with a border. I say questioningly. Okay, so this border is going to have a background equal to the background brush. The system background brush. I'm missing something. How hard can it be to find the background? Okay, well, this is getting embarrassing. Okay, apparently it doesn't want me to find that. There's... hitting all sorts of the wrong buttons. Background brush. You know what? White. We're gonna, this is now white. Done. So we have our white background. Cool. Let's give it an opacity of 0.5. And then let's figure out how to blur things. I imagine we're going to need something inside there that's going to do something. What? I do not know. Blur example. An object with blurred background. Huh. Yeah, that's what I want, but I don't think that's supported yet. Well, that is supported, but I don't think it was supported when they did it. Yeah. They wrote their own blur. Nope. That's not great. Well, wait. Did they? Yeah, no. Hold on. How to blur for background of grid. Blur Windows 10 anniversary. This has now become the video about how to use the internet search. I'd say Google, but I'm using Bing, so it's not how to Google 1.101. It's how to Bing. Bing it on. All right, that's enough of that. App real-time blur background. Gaussian blur effect. Yes, this is what I want. Can I add it in the XAML? Because that would be fantastic. Gaussian blur amount. So if you wanted to do this in, well, if you wanted to do this in WPF, you'd have to cut corners as well, because you couldn't blur the background. You just blur the element you were drawing. And I think if I've looked into this before, and I think this will actually blur behind stuff. I think. But it's kind of annoying that we can't, like, if we can't bind to this, it's less useful. Is it though? Because we can set the blur and then we can change the opacity of the object to kind of fade that blur in and then fade it back out. I think this will work. I think we can make, whoa. I think this can be made to work. So we need to create a brush that is going to apply our blur. So looking at it kind of like Unity, it's like we're creating a material and we need to apply that. I think that's a fair comparison. Create an effect factor. If you want to only apply to a single surface, you would do the following. Blur lots of content dynamically that is behind it. You would do the following. So we're going to need this guy. Okay. I'm just going to do this. That's a mistake, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then we're going to go here. And when this is loaded, we want to create a dependency property. Static read-only dependent. Ooh, that's not, we're not going to copy that. That's too much writing. Dependency property. We want a brush. And this is going to be our blurred brush. Awesome. So this is our blurred brush with a name of blurred brush. And so this, we're going to set this from here. So the default is going to be whatever we create. Initialize component, blurred brush, initialize blurred brush. That's not how you do this. Whoa. Too much back. Blurred brush. Okay. And then repaste. And oh, that did not work. I didn't really expect it to. But need all of that. And that. And then we can tab in. We need to include a bunch of stuff. And we need a compositor, but we also, this can be changed to our blurred brush. So this effect brush gets set there. The only issue now is we're missing this compositor. What is the compositor? Ah, it's that thing. This dot root visual, no. Root visual is going to be an app thing, I thought. Right? I don't think I'm making this up. I think I'm actually correct. Right? Maybe. Maybe not. Okay, maybe not. Well then, what is it? This dot frame dot root visual. Okay. Oh, it's right there. Literally right above it. Okay, it's got it done. One of these days, I'm actually gonna read the instructions. That won't happen for a while though. Ooh, create method, no. Get visuals should be a thing that. Okay. Let's check out this guy's full demo. He does a bunch of stuff, gets the compositor. This might make more sense. Var compositor. Does not contain anything that contains those elements. That's because we had spelled it wrong. From composition effect brush. Composition effect brush. And now we need to change all of these types to be the correct types. Okay. Oh, semicolon. Always remember your semicolons. I don't, but you should. Place the blur amount here, 5. Or not. Okay, 5. Got it. Next, we need this guy to bind to that text, or to this block. We need to bind here. So bind the path of this to the element name of the blurred brush property. And it should be blurred. It might already be blurred. I can't tell. We're gonna have to run this. Right. Okay, it isn't working yet because we haven't compiled, so that can't be found yet. So, local machine, build it. Work, please? That would be fantastic if you worked. Kinda disappointed. No, that's nothing. I don't think that's anything, at least. Alright, oh. What's going on here? Border U. What do you look like? Too small. Okay. Right, so what we need to do first is we need to remove those. All of that needs to go away and be part of this. And then this guy needs to be horizontally centered and vertically centered. I'm just specifying this. I don't think this is necessary. I'm just doing it because otherwise it won't work and I'll be annoyed. We can get rid of that and we can stretch this. So the horizontal alignment is going to be stretched and the vertical alignment is going to be stretched. So now it should take up the full screen. Next, I should probably look up what that blur is actually supposed to do. That would make sense, wouldn't it? But apparently not. I don't know if this is actually going to display it, but you know what? There's an easier way to do this. Go here, specify some massive number, blur amount 20, effect soft, hard. The input image. Yes, that is what we want. Optimization balanced. Effect source parameter source. I think that's what we want. Yes. Create backdrop brush. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I get what this is trying to do. It's trying, so there's two things happening here. One, we're creating a Gaussian blur effect. But the second thing that's happening here is we're creating a parameter, which is going to be the backdrop, everything behind it. And we're setting that as a parameter of this brush. And then that's going to be used to blur and blur everything. So this blur isn't transparent. The blur is, what's the word for it? The blur is rendered on top. It's words. But yeah, the blur is actually rendering over everything, and it's just faking the background. So taking that, drawing a completely opaque image that's blurred on top of it. But it's not. Let's figure out what's going on here. That should take up the full screen, and it does. So that's good. That's what we want. But it's not blurring. Why not? Did I actually close? No. Okay. Okay. Where did we go wrong? In this case, we can now change, animate the blur amount. Okay. So this is going, that effect factory is what making it animatable. But why isn't it working for our element? Why aren't we seeing it? Oh, have they already done this for me? I feel really silly. Samples common. Answer, probably. So this is Building a blur brush. Yeah, this is exactly what we need. So we should just be able to take this and plug it in for we should just be able to take this, all of this, and it's probably an easier way to get this, but I'm just gonna copy, paste in a new control. We can just create a class, and we're gonna call this what they call it, the blur panel. Sure, that's what we'll call it. Ooh, there's a bunch of like versioning and all sorts of fun stuff going on in here. That's actually kind of confusing though, because I would assume this is a switch on if it's that version, and it is. But then why are those disabled? What am I missing? Right? I think that makes sense. I think it makes sense for us to have this be the correct version, but it's not. Apparently, it's not going to work. Yeah, so it creates just a normal brush. That's just white if it's not supported. Maybe that's why our thing didn't work. But that doesn't make any sense. Let's do pretty sure something's not right. Huh. But I don't know what it is. So let's check some more stuff. Regardless of this, we should have our blur panel, which is what I'm going to call it now. That's something we have. So I can actually plug that in here instead of this guy. And then we can just get this working instead. So blur panel. That is in the wrong namespace. So I'm just going to quickly change that. It is in samples. We want it in Emotible. Just Emotible should be fine. And if we go back here now and import it or not, the hotkey doesn't work. So we get this blur panel, blur amount. And so this should allow us to animate our blur amount. We should be able to change that. Doesn't work yet, apparently, but we'll get there. All right, well, let's try this one more time. And then name blur panel, there's an error, 1 sec. Load reference for assembly. Okay, so that's white. Right, so our blur isn't working, so it's just defaulting to white. But why? I mean, we're targeting the version that the minimum version that this app supports is the version that's required to support this blur. So I don't see a reason why this doesn't work. Huh. Well, let's try one more thing. Let's do remote project my screen. Whoa. Okay, that is a massive thing. Let's get this. And I'm gonna hide this for a second, import a pin quick. And this phone, the one I'm working on now, already has the correct, it is ahead in the version. So we should be able to shoot it over here. I assume those switches are based off of the actual device it's running on. And no, that doesn't make any sense because they're compile time things. None of this makes any sense. This should work. But I'm going to try this anyway because I'm not thinking of anything else that could be the issue. I'll have to, if this doesn't work, it's all right. The stream has already been going on for a while, 2 hours almost. So if this doesn't work, I think we'll cancel, well, we won't cancel anything. We'll just stop here and I'll figure it out and then we can pick it up tomorrow. But we have our phone and it just got deployed, which is fantastic. It's loading. Kind of reminds me we need an icon. That's a thing. This should pop up momentarily. And then it should lock up and yeah. What's going on? There we go. So we get this. It doesn't go to the top here. You'll notice there's a bar at the top. The reason that's happening is because we defaulted the theme to the light theme. And apparently it didn't change the color of the notification icons. So those are, I think that's what's happening. Anyway, let's open this. Still a white background. Okay, well, this was fun. I'll have to look into it. I don't know what's going on. And yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of how to fix this, so I'll have to do a bunch of searching and figure it out, and we'll pick it up tomorrow. But that's it for now. So thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed it, hit the like button or leave a comment or watch some of the other videos, do something. I don't know. It's really nice to, I enjoy sharing things, so if you guys like it, tell me what you want to see and we'll see what we can make happen. So yeah, thanks for watching and hope to see you guys tomorrow when we get this actually working. So see ya.